Welcome back to another ZAGSBLOG Zoom series interview. I'm your host, Jacob Polacheck, and today's guest is Joseph Tipton. Joseph is a rising senior at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, but you'll most likely recognize him as the owner and founder of Tipton Edits, where he is responsible for photo edit designs for some of college basketball's top prospects. Over the years, he's made edits for players such as NBA All-Stars Trae Young and Brandon Ingram, potential #1 NBA draft pick Anthony Edwards, and current high school stars Jalen Green and Kansas-bound guard Bryce Thompson. You can find his work on Twitter at Tipton Edits and on Instagram at Tipton.edits. Joe, you and I have been in touch for a few years now, but it's the first time that we've had the chance to do a real interview. It's great to have you on.
Thanks so much, Jacob.
And so where are you joining us from? Are you in Huntsville?
I'm in Huntsville. I'm home, just hanging out, trying to wait out all of this COVID stuff.
Yeah, I bet. And so before we get into things, for the people that don't know you, you mind just telling everyone exactly what you do as the owner of Tipton Edits?
Right. Yeah. So Tipton Edits is basically a kind of a platform for top players to have access to, a top school's graphic, commitment graphic to those kids personally, but then also kind of as a news source, kind of almost like a media company to provide, high school basketball recruiting news.
And so in doing all of that, you've built a huge following with nearly 130,000 Instagram followers. I'm sure you're asked about this all the time, but I really just want to ask, is there any one follower that you've gotten over the years that stuck out to you, someone that was pretty cool?
Let me think. That's a good question. See, like the issue. Oh, well, Bronny James. I didn't even know he was following me. I just I had started following him and I had looked at who he was following. And basically what I was going to do my game was I was going to message a lot of the people that I knew that he was already following. And because I had made Bronny an edit and I was going to say, hey, do you mind sending this to Bronny? And then when I went to go do that, he was already following me. And I was like, wow. Because me personally, LeBron's my favorite player. It's huge, to have Bronny follow me. But yeah.
And so you've had this big following for years, but it wasn't until just recently, I think it was late last month, that you finally got verified on Instagram.
Right.
Did that give you any sort of validation? What did it mean to you to get verified?
Oh, it meant the world because I've been trying for years, contacting people, reaching out to see, #1, if it was possible. And then #2, would I even be able to get it? Because, you wouldn't expect, any page to be verified. At one point, I didn't think it was even going to be possible, just because, people that are verified and, they're very different than what Tipton Edits is. And I think only 1% of accounts on Instagram is verified. But it's given me the first time I was verified, I can there's DMs and they're going to see it, because if a verified person messages you, you're going to open that right away. Like, you want to know who it is. You want to know what they have to say. Message. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
Okay. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I'm connected to I'm still connected to Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the first I was verified, I messaged everyone on the Lakers roster, because I'm a Lakers fan, and basically, Lakers won in this year. And I said hashtag for Kobe with a yellow heart and a purple heart. And I didn't get a response from anybody, but messaged Nick Young. And this is before they signed Jared. And I said, LA's got to sign you. And he replied back. I was like, wow. And he was like, facts or something like that. So for somebody of that magnitude, or, even that, player, with that amount of clout, social status, that was huge. So followers went up, views went up, impressions went up. It's helped tremendously.
And so you talk about reaching out to some big name players. Is there any player, current or former, that you've always wanted to get in touch with? Any player you dreamed of talking to?
But even, like, do you mean that was in the high school space that I couldn't get in touch with, or like a guy like LeBron, like a guy that I would never even, I was 4 years old when he was in the high school game.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh yeah, it would probably be LeBron, without a doubt. That's the first name that comes to my mind. Somebody that came through high school that one of the very few that I never even had interaction with was Melo Ball. Even when he had 500,000 followers, I still couldn't even get in touch with him. I should shoot him a DM now that I'm verified to see if he would see it at least, but I think you guys that came through high school that I have never had a conversation with. Have had one with Lonzo, never had one with Melo.
And so I know you take a lot of pride in your work, and really as one of the first, if not the first person to really jump into this landscape, in the whole environment of photo editing in high school basketball, have there been any designs of yours that you've seen replicated a ton now that you really started, would you say?
Oh, that I replicated from someone else?
No, something that you've started that,
okay,
like that, some sort of design that you started that you now see a lot of. I know one
yeah.
that I've seen a lot. I don't know if you started this, but the jerseys in the background of the photo.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I started that or not, or because I have a team of designers that do a lot of work for me as well. I don't know if one of them brought it up. I think the first graphic that was made with the jerseys in the background was for Romeo Langford when he announced his final. I believe he was class of 2018. And then I took a break from that, and then you saw a bunch of people start doing it, and then I saw players posting someone else edit, so I was like, oh, I got to get back and let people, they can't forget that, if I wasn't, the first, that I was one of the first. Of course, I already have a leg up on most of the competition anyway, just because of the following, or most players have already know who I am, just because right as when that ESPN Top 25 releases for that sophomore class, I follow every single one on the list and message every single one, and then keep in touch year after year. Every so often reach out, check in, to kind of reel in, because it's I take it extremely seriously. They're not just viewed just as clients, because it can go more than just just purely a business relationship. But I want to get every top school, every commitment that I can. So I don't get upset if they post someone else's graphic or anything like that. Like, that doesn't bother me. Like, it's completely their choice. I understand sometimes someone made something else better, but I still want to reel in as many as possible.
And so in terms of your time, what percentage of your time would you say is spent reaching out to players, getting in contact with players? And what percentage of your time would you say is actually physically working on the edits?
Yeah, so it's tough. I guess it just varies, because different times of the year, are needed more for commitments or top schools, or if nothing's going on at all. Constantly checking my DMs, seeing if a player's messaged me. But like I said, when I reach out, like while they're sophomores, I go ahead and send them my phone number, get them to text me, because sometimes I may not see their DM. That's kind of gotten me hurt in the past. If a player is committing the following day, I never saw their DM, I missed out on a guy. But I would say the whole Tipton Edits altogether, if you just put it all together, how much time a day, how many hours a day I spend on Tipton Edits, just in general, it was probably, I think my screen time is like in between like 10 and 12 hours a day on my phone. So it's pretty high. I mean, not all of that is Tipton Edits related, but I would say 6 to 8 hours a day.
And so in doing this, you've also been able to travel to some big high school events like Peach Jam and all that. But before I ask you about that, I've heard that you have some quirky travel habits. You like to use Google Maps everywhere you go.
Oh yeah, I have a horrible sense of direction. I mean, terrible. I've lived in Huntsville my entire life, 22 years. And if I'm traveling to a restaurant I've never been to before. Even if I know it's right off the interstate, you take exit 19B, I'll still pull up Google Maps because I get lost so easily. And then, of course, I go into panic mode, start getting anxious, don't know where I'm going. Even to go back home. Like, even if I got there, I got to have the map to go back home, at least to get me on the interstate or the highway. Then I know where I'm going from there, of course. But my memory and just sense of direction is terrible.
And so I want to talk about your trip to Peach Jam. Who were some of the people you were able to meet at Peach Jam, and what was a fun story that you had?
Yeah, I met. That was a great experience. I can't remember. I might be associating because I haven't been to Peach Jam in 2 years, 2 or 3. And in that year, I went to the Atlanta session. I don't know which session it was. I know they have typically sometimes 3. But I know I met Trey Jones. That one was memorable. Of course, I had done edits for him prior, so he knew who I was. And he called me sir, and that kind of blew me away because, at his status, calling you sir, wow. Of course, I'm only a year older than him. Met Michael Porter Jr. He was a great guy. Bobo was a great guy. Sharif O'Neal, Marvin Bagley, even coaches, Jeff Capel, Pitt's head coach, Mike Miller, former assistant in Memphis, Bruce Pearl, got to meet him. So yeah, every experience always great.
And so you talked about having players call you sir and all of that. When you first started doing this, you were in high school and a lot of these guys were older than you at the time, but
Yeah.
Now you're going to be a senior in college and these guys are all in high school. So as you've gotten older, has it become more difficult to build these relationships as the age gap has widened?
I'm not old by any means, but it makes me feel like I'm in high school again. Sometimes talking to the guys, just because, as you get older, everyone knows you mature more. You talk differently, you act differently. Just as you age. But it's made me appreciate those guys that are, even though they have all the popularity in the world, that they stay humble. Guys that I'm thinking of in the 2020 class, Zaire Williams headed to Stanford, Jalen Suggs headed to Gonzaga, Puff Johnson going to UNC, Bryce Thompson, a great guy. I got to talk to his dad, fine man himself. Just the whole space of high school basketball has changed drastically due to the media coverage of it. Whether that's Overtime, Slam, Bleacher Report, you name it. It's changed kind of the headspace of a lot of guys. Their followers grow, and so does their kind of, I don't know another word besides cockiness. Because, I remember class of 2016, Harry Giles was ranked number 1 in the country. I think he had I remember looking, I think 14,000 followers. Number 1 player in the Jalen Green, number 1 player in the country. Okay, what is he at? 980,000. I mean, it's second to none. So, when a kid has that amount of exposure and they're treated as a celebrity at 16, 17, 18 years old, it does something to their head. So it makes you really, really appreciate those guys that are just good people overall. Not saying, I just want to make it public, not saying every top player is cocky or bad, but there's fewer great guys, unfortunately, than there is those ones that are cocky. You send them an edit and they don't thank you, something along those lines.
And so you first started following the class of 2015, but even before you started doing all this, I've heard that back in middle school, you had a pretty interesting McDonald's order. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I've always been a big eater. It hurt me later in life when my metabolism started to fail me towards, I guess, my senior year of high school. Started to gain a few extra pounds, but in middle school, I guess it was after a basketball game or football game, you're real hungry, you want something to eat, you burned up all of your calories. I think my McDonald's order was 2 McDoubles, 2 McChickens, and then a large Diet Coke or something like that. I mean, 14. And it's not like I'm 7 feet tall. I'm only like 6'2" on a good day. But yeah, so I was a big eater, always have been.
And now I'm hoping that your eating habits have gotten a little better over the years.
They
You're going
have.
to be
I've had to cut back. So.
And so now you're going into your senior year at Alabama Huntsville. You're a full-time student. So with the nature of your job running Tipton Edits, I'm sure there are times when you get messages from some big-time recruits asking for an edit while you may be in class or in a lecture. Has there been a moment when you've been in class trying to pay attention, but you've had a really important edit to make ASAP?
Yeah, I don't think there's been one, if I'm sitting, in a class at 11 a.m. where they're, committing in an hour or anything like that. If anything, they wait until the end of the business day to do it, when everybody's off work, things like that. But there, as times went on, kind of as my reputation has grown, been able to tell a guy, or I feel more comfortable telling a guy, if they want to commit tonight and they're giving me 3 hours notice, I would say, how about tomorrow? I can have it for you then. And they'll say, okay, that's cool. So now I can kind of dictate, I can suggest a different day. Whereas before it was, okay, I'll make it happen. Drop anything you're doing. You're, I wasn't friends, I got to head out. I got to do this. And, that it kind of, made Tipton Edits more of a priority versus, my social life. So I've kind of been able to, delay it a little bit, just where I don't have to drop anything I'm doing.
And so this summer, I know that you've also got an internship. So where are you working, and talk a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, so I'm working with a company called Influencer. They're located in Birmingham, Alabama. They basically developed an app for collegiate athletes to use to access photos of them, almost in real time after a practice, after a game, so players don't have to Google themselves, have the watermark on it, have it blurry, things like that. The work I'm doing, it's all remote. So, I'm just working from home. Originally it was supposed to be, in Birmingham, but of course things changed with COVID. But that's been a great experience. Got to meet a lot of good people, just learn new things. So it's been good.
And you've also been in some talks about potential grad assistant jobs. I know you've been talking to the staff at Alabama about potentially becoming a grad assistant there. What's the story with that? Where are things there?
Yeah, so one of their assistant coaches had been following me on Instagram, I guess, for a while. And he slid up on my stories from time to time, would say something. Ended up getting his number, chatting with him, producing graphics for guys they're recruiting, things of that nature. And then, he pretty much said, hey, we need a guy, a grad assistant from the state of Alabama, obviously, which I'm, where I'm from. And they offered me that position. Was completely blown away, because growing up, Alabama's the hottest thing out from where I'm from. So that was huge. Arkansas, they're another school that's offered me one as well. So still trying to, weigh my options, see what I want to do, even if I want to go the grad, route. So only time will tell.
And so I was going to ask about that. Is that some avenue that you may want to look into beyond college, potentially getting into coaching, perhaps?
Yeah. So I never thought that, I never kind of always wanted to be a coach. That was never, in my head. But I'm at the point now where there's so many question marks as to where my future will go that I think at this point I just want to experience all I can. Whether that's, being a college coach or, a writer or whatever else. So, and of course, getting grad school paid for, that would be huge as well. And of course, just the connections that you make, while being at one of those schools, a Power 5 SEC school, like them. So it's definitely something, that I'm considering and leaning towards. So.
And I've also seen you promote your page, Tipton Kicks, lately. Please talk a little bit about that. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Tipton Kicks is an Instagram page, I guess. It's been over a year since I created. I'm a shoe head. You can see, I may have I buy and sell a lot, but I think I might have 25, 30 shoes right now. But that's just been kind of another, way to make money. Just because I don't work a job, like it's Tipton Kicks and Tipton Edits. That's how I make my money. So that's and it's just another hobby. I've always loved shoes, and then now I'm in a position where I can invest money in a shoe, and then sell it. If I think I can make a profit off of it.
And now for this last segment, I want to go through a list of some of the most talked about high school guys, and I just want you to give me a prediction of where you think they're going to college. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So first off, we got Musa Cisse. He's committing tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time. His finalists are Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Memphis, Georgetown, and Florida State. So where do you think he's heading?
I think it'll be Memphis. I think it was LSU early on. They got slammed with some allegations, and he goes to school in Memphis, and I think it's more of the safer route. So yeah, I think it'll be them.
Then you got a real big name committing this week, Jonathan Kaminga. He's announcing on Thursday. He's down to the NBL, the G League, Texas Tech, Duke, Kentucky, and Auburn. Where do you think he's headed?
Definitely the professional route. I know that G made his, a 55, but then, there's been several talks of him, considering the NBL, possibly for more pay. I know he's originally from the Congo, so, it isn't, new to him to travel to a new place. Of course, with COVID and everything going on, it might be the safer play, health-wise, to play in Southern California, with the rest of those guys, headed to the G League. But I think I even read, I don't know if it's a fact that Texas Tech is out of scholarships. I haven't confirmed that, but I mean, if you read any reliable sports writer, they're saying if he's going to college, it's going to be Texas Tech with his brother. And if they're out of scholarships, he's not going to Texas Tech. So there you have it, NBL or G League.
All right, and so those guys, they already have dates set. These next few guys haven't set any dates yet, but Patrick Baldwin Jr., he's got a top 10 out. Recently, Rivals reported that Duke, UW-Milwaukee, Kentucky, Northwestern, and North Carolina are the main contenders for him. So do you have a prediction for where he's going to end up?
Yeah, I think it'll be Duke. I don't see him anywhere else. I know his dad's the head coach at Milwaukee. He would make complete sense. It would shock a lot of people to know his dad is the head coach there. Like if he were to commit there tomorrow, it would be like, what is going on? Making $400,000 to go there. That's the people that don't know, obviously, but I think it'll be Duke.
Next, I want to ask about Chet Holmgren. He's now down to a top 7 of Minnesota, Michigan, Gonzaga, North Carolina, Memphis, Ohio State, and Georgetown. What's your prediction for him?
Yeah, if I had to say now, his recruitment has been very interesting to have, be the number 1 player and not have a school like Kentucky or Duke. Of course, he's got North Carolina. But if I had to say, now, if he were to make his decision, that it would be Gonzaga just because of his relationship with Jalen Suggs, even though if everything goes to plan, he will be one and done. But, Chet and Jalen are close, obviously go to the same school. So him having a relationship with that coaching staff, that's huge for them.
And then the last one I want to ask about, Paolo Banchero. I know you put up a post yesterday on him. He's down to a top 6. Kentucky, Washington, Gonzaga, Tennessee, and Duke. But what's your prediction for him?
Yeah, I think that the school that's most confident with him is Kentucky. I know they wanted him to reclassify to 2020 to get him early. Of course, they already have Isaiah Jackson-Lance, where there wasn't really a need for him. to come in 2020. So I think that it's you know, postponed to, well, not necessarily, but he'll be staying in 2021, and I think he will be going to Kentucky.
All right. And before we wrap things up, I just want to give you the chance to speak about yourself. You've done numerous interviews over these few years, but what's one thing that you may not get asked or that people just might not know about you?
One thing that people may not know about me. I guess people might assume that I'm kind of techie or kind of a nerd, you know, because with Tipton Edits, you know, it involves graphic design. You have to have at least some knowledge within that space. But I am kind of a nerd when it comes to technology or, you know, learning a new, you know, like if a new software update, you know, comes out on my iPhone or something, I'm like the first to download it. I'm like a geek. I'm like reading all the specs, like what's new. You know, when the new iPhone 12 rumors release, you know, I'm looking at, you know, how it's going to look. Can't wait to get it. Things like that. You know, the new iOS. I'm always downloading the beta, stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. It's been great having you. Once again, you can find Joseph's work on Instagram at tipton.edits and on Twitter at Tipton Edits. For ZAGSBLOG.com, I'm Jacob Polacheck, and we'll see you again next time.